everybody, and welcome back to my channel. And welcome back to another segment that is related to the series Missing Kids. And I thought I would insert a biographical sketch of the prime suspect in the Madeline McCann's case right into this vlog. And I'm also probably going to attach another couple of biographical sketches that belong to a couple of other criminals that we have reviewed in the past. One of them would be Calvin Hoover, and another would be D'Angelo. And so I think I may just create another series or try to insert them in here in this playlist for you. I'm not sure, I haven't decided yet. And so I thought I would just briefly mention, instead of creating a whole vlog around this, because really I'm not into using all that much makeup or cosmetics. But these are, I'm just going to show you a couple of the items that I have been absolutely unable to live with. And so I am using the Maybelline concealer, which is called Fit Me in the shade 05, and it's ivory. Now I have tried other shades, and this is the best one for me so far. And I go through maybe three or four of these in a single year. And sometimes I just overdo it, I guess. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't seem as though I feel or look okay to go out of the door unless I have this either with or without foundation. And of course, when I'm not wearing foundation, I tend to use a little less. So that's my number one product. Another product that I can't seem to live without these days is this wonderful lotion, which is like a clear jelly. And if you can see that, it's a clear jelly, and it's eucalyptus and aloe vera. And what it does, guys, is that it heals muscular, even bone pain, I would imagine. I don't really have bone pain, but I have sprained a couple of ankles, the same one twice, I should say. And I did sprain my hip about a week ago now. And this is like a magic potion, honestly and truly. If you're looking for something that can, get rid of those little twinges and aches and pains that kind of travel all over your body. And normally when you have a sprain, that's what happens, doesn't it? You sprain a muscle and it starts traveling all over your body. So at least in my case, that's what's been happening. But no, with this, I'm perfectly fine. Mind you, I do take an aspirin here and there. Basically, it does wonders for me whenever I do sprain or injure a muscle. And so, guys, I have been purchasing this at Ambrosia, a health food store. Very, very, very prominent in my city. Now, I'm pretty sure that they are sold. This is sold in other outlets as well. I haven't seen it at Whole Foods, but I believe you can also get this online. So I'm not sure if you're willing to order it online, but it's called Nature's Aid, and it's a miracle. It's a miracle potion for me. Hi everybody, so I'm basically so far having a very good day, nothing like yesterday, and I'm, keeping an eye peeled for weird situations that concern, things that should not be happening. So anyway, I'm going to get right back into the discussion about our main suspect in the Maddie McCann case, actually the only real suspect there was. And so let's get into his biographical review. this is going back to his childhood. Now, this is going to be multi-part. I'm not sure, maybe 2 or 3 parts. But anyway, I need to take a quick little break. I'm essentially only going to be talking about the childhood of the prime suspect up until a certain point, and then we're going to switch over to the reaction by his fellow Bavarian neighbors, and then maybe on to another outline of his crimes after he moved out of that village. And so I essentially feel very sorry for him and pity him because, as I said before, I think had certain outcomes been a little different or better and easier on him, it may not have amounted to that. And so I believe that the majority of the tension and all of his crime actually began with the sad and tragic episode of his father, who had a horrific car accident. Now, hold on, and I'm going to get right into it. Now, I'm going to refer to him, even though I have a hashtag attached to this video, I'm going to refer to him as the prime suspect because he's only that. And so it's unbelievable. Every time I start filming, I get so distracted. It's, you know, he's basically 46 years old now. And what I was trying to say is that, you know, I don't want to ignite the lack of privacy. Now, look what happened to the McCanns. They sued and they got all of their damages taken away. Well, the McCanns went through the same thing that he's going through. And I would imagine that he's done his time for the other convictions. Now it's time for him to have a life. If he cannot be tracked physically to Madeleine McCann, regardless of if he was there, he worked there. Just because a person is in the wrong place at usually the wrong time, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily guilty. And so, okay, so our suspect is around 46 years old, and he actually left his Bavarian village at a very early age. And so the people in that village where he grew up claimed that his parents, his adoptive parents, Bridget and Fritz, they took him in as a baby. And they referred to these parents, these lovely adoptive parents, as very generous and loving. And this is obviously the truth because they adopted 3 boys altogether, not just the prime suspect. However, guys, I'm going to pause right here and interject into this article with the statement that we only know what we're told. We don't know if these boys had a proper upbringing. We imagine they did, right? We don't know if they were abused by a community member, a teacher. We don't know if they were high risk. Were the other boys prone to running away? Because if they were, maybe there was something wrong. You know what I'm saying? But we don't have any of that information. And wouldn't it be wonderful if, well, maybe not everybody would read it, but I certainly would be interested if the prime suspect would now write his own biography. I don't intend to glorify him at all in the least, but people do deserve to get a fresh new lease on life if they've paid for their crimes, right? That's all I'm trying to get at. So getting to Fritz's horrific and very indeed tragic accident, a vehicle motor accident, that occurred when the suspect was about 13, 14 years old. And so it happened in 1992, and the suspect was quite young. And so it changed his life entirely, as well as the lives of all of his other family members. And so, as a man of the house, Fritz had always disciplined the boy because he needed a firm hand. How firm he was, well, we can say maybe too firm or not enough, right? Because look at what happened to the suspect. His life became a mess. And so, but Bridget, his mother, she did all that she could with both her child, her adopted children, and her ailing husband, who had severe brain damage as a result of this horrific accident. And so, she couldn't cope, guys. She did her best, and I'm sure she did do her best. But a person in that kind of stress will always be in dire need of assistance. And no matter what decisions they ultimately may make, they more or less would probably end up often being the wrong ones. You know what I'm saying? And so Bridget was probably overworked, stressed out, distracted, irritable, frustrated, desperate, hopeless, to say the least. And so you can imagine her shock when the adoptive mother came to realize that the suspect may have played a part in the shocking case of Madeline, as well as other cases. And so it would almost be as though that the prime suspect repaid all of their kindness with horrific crime and resentment and hostility and ungratefulness. In all truth, I think he was indeed misguided, but I think that it could have turned out much better for him had, he had some sort of emotional support, especially at school and in the community, where they were perhaps maybe very quick to judge him. Around the time of 1992, the tragic accident of Fritz, the prime suspect had been in and out of legal and other types of trouble. And so he had been sent to a reform school for his delinquent behavior. And so, sadly, Fritz did survive for a few years, but then he passed away, guys. And so that is why Bridget was left in a terrible, terrible position. And other local mothers who knew the family and ached for them, the family members, they did their best to support her. As for the prime suspect, I don't think much was done for him. Although I believe that all of his delinquent activity were all cries, desperate cries for help. And that's why my heart goes out to all children, delinquent or otherwise, who go through stuff like this, because they are not in control of their own situation, right? However, these local families also described the convict as a serious troublemaker, and indeed, his activity would probably label him in North America as high risk. But in the circumstances which I described that term when I was discussing people like Justin Polari or the other missing boy, Yves, um, high risk really actually precisely refers to a child's vulnerability and his lack of skill to cope in society with all of the given high norms and high expectations that we have of children nowadays, right? Children are not in control. And so, talk about distractions. And so, they don't really have that much of a choice. They cannot choose their alternative course of action. And so, it's really sad. And so when I say high risk, I am actually referring to a child's lack of resources, lack of skills, vulnerability, and all the things that are stacked up against that child and all of his outward behaviors such as withdrawn behavior or moodiness or crime. And so that I don't necessarily mean that high risk infers something physically threatening. High risk is really um, an increased chance that a child has that they will turn out, I don't know how to say this, turn out in a bad way, have a bad life, and be unable to cope. And we did a case with Justin Polari and another missing child case, Yves. For the moment, I cannot recall his last name. And they were both discussed in terms of being high risk, but neither of them actually were. And although I believe that Justin Polari was maybe um, ill defined by the schools and the police system, simply because maybe he was not that likable. And so I think that the prime suspect's childhood reflects the same sort of turmoil that these other boys grew up with. And both Justin and Yves were kind of motherless. Yves' mother passed away when he was about 12 years old, and Justin's biological mother was not with him. He was with his stepfather, he was with his biological father, and his stepmother. And in some way, that affected him negatively. And so that's the sort of stuff I'm trying to bring up here. That's what it means to be high risk and not necessarily a violent threat. However, in the case of our prime suspect, I think it takes the label high risk to different levels. He takes him to the uppermost top level of high risk. And I think that he actually does define the legal term of high risk in all aspects of what it might imply and what it actually does infer. And so I believe that he was a threat to his own safety when he acted out. He I know that we should say, well, he shouldn't have acted out. No, he should not have. But we don't know his entire story. We don't know his birth story. At least I don't. And so I have not been able to present that to you. But his mother, I'm pretty sure his original parents were not there. Probably death or some other circumstances. And so he did not have it easy. So ultimately, Bridget and Fritz had to send him to reform school, and they virtually, basically, they disowned him at a very early age, teenage age, and so he was homeless, guys, and they couldn't cope. They couldn't cope, and it's unfortunate that it came to that. And in so doing, his parents cast him out as a black sheep of his own community. And it's all history from there. Everything else just was a downward spiral after that. They were forced to disown their son after he led a riot in Bavaria. I believe right in that very village near Würzburg. And so that ultimately landed him in reform school. And so Bridget would say about his wrongdoings, I don't know anything about it, and I don't want to know. Maybe perhaps not the best response. So I'm not criticizing her. I'm just saying that it's obvious that he didn't have what he needed with his adoptive family. And so locals in the village, in the Bavarian village, were also shocked to hear that this troublesome youth they knew from the 90s could be linked to Madeleine McCann's disappearance. And also that he was convicted of other crimes as well. So this is what I'm saying. Even though he's paid for those other crimes, their attitude is still the same. It will never change, guys. It will never change. And so I'm going to leave this case to be discussed, further discussed in another vlog. And let's just leave on the note that his parents, his family, his community members all had the same opinion of him. And so what I want to impress upon you that is once a person as young as he was becomes labeled by society and doesn't manage to overcome that or break free from that or have any sort of control over that, there isn't really that much hope left for a child that comes up against that brick wall. We know that he did begin acting up at a very early age after his father had the accident. So I believe that he was actually quite devastated and could not properly express his shock and disappointment over what happened with his adopted father, Fritz. And so I'm going to leave this at that, and we'll pick up the discussion on another day, and we will pick up where the residents of that Bavarian village became shocked that he was accused of attacking people of all ages, seniors, pensioners, babies, kids, whatever have you. And so that's how they saw it. So guys, thank you for listening and watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Bye.